Cold turkey is wonderful on sandwiches, but as far as breaking habits go, guys, I got a better solution for you this new year. And I'm, of course, talking about my sponsor, Fume. Fume is an amazing, award-winning, innovative, flavored air device. And it's built to help you part ways with old habits. Instead of electronics, vapors, and harmful chemicals, Fume is completely natural, and it uses flavored air. This is a habit you can feel free to enjoy, and it makes replacing your bad habit very easy. This will fill the void in a natural, guilt-free way. It's easy, enjoyable, and it's even fun. Fume has served over 150,000 customers and has tens of thousands of success stories. And there's no reason that the next success story can't be you. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial. This is so satisfying. Do you hear that? It's so satisfying to play with this thing. And it's designed with removable parts, and it's also got magnets for fidgeting. Pick up the Journey Pack today. Try it for yourself. Go to tryfume.com/Chael. That's going to get you 10% off. Or scan the QR code just as easy. Make sure you use the code Chael to get that 10% discount. All right, guys, let's talk a little Umar Nurmagomedov. Now, one thing about Umar that has been blatantly obvious and that I have appreciated is he will let you know. I mean, Umar will do a good job, and I would say a better job than young, early on Khabib did. Good job letting you know who he is, where he ranks, and who he wants to fight, right? So, Umar had a great week. He's calling people out. He's got this beautiful record. He's got a beautiful name. What else, though? You guys go. We're being nice to Umar right now, right? We're only telling the good stuff. What do you want to throw in the pile? He's got the name. He's got the record. Help me. What else? Now, I'm not arguing for you that you got to have 10 or 11 or that there's any kind of magical number on compliments that people can readily hand to you. What I will let you know is more times than not, a guy is unaware. And his self-unawareness is annoying. We see this so often. A guy will want to push, or he'll want to renegotiate with the company, or he'll want more money, or he'll start making these demands. All because he read press clippings that people like you and I put out about him that were positive, where we liked him and we saw some potential. And we gave him the pat on the back and the attaboys. And all of a sudden they start to get misinterpreted. And then all of a sudden booking a guy for fights, he's not going to fight that guy. Why he's not going to fight that guy? Well, that guy's not good enough. That guy doesn't deserve it. That guy hasn't earned it. That guy's not ranked high enough. And you're right, your stomach's getting sick. And what are you even talking about? None of that has anything to do with anything, but it does in certain guys' bubbles. And once they make it real, man, it stays real with them. So when I'm looking at Umar, and by the way, if I was to break down the X's and O's of that fight, the worst part of the fight for him was my favorite. It's tough sometimes to know, is a guy just better than everybody? I mean, right? Like, what kind of credit does he get if there's a gap between his skills and everybody else? Now, on the other side of the coin, what are you supposed to do about it? If you give him guys and they're trained and they're mixed martial artists too and they're professionals, but we know it when we see it. We know it when we see it, and it's very hard for us to push a guy if we don't see adversity, and it's very hard for a guy to deal with adversity if he is meaningfully better than the competition, right? You can't get that kind of analysis. Did you? That made perfect sense, didn't it? Which is why it was so incumbent and even important and helpful that he went down. Boom, big shot, knees weak, guy comes on top. I mean, this is what separates us from boxing to a huge degree. Whereas boxing, you get in trouble, they are going to stop that right there. They're going to start counting. They're going to send you to the corners. They're going to check your gloves. They're going to look in your eyes. There's going to be all sorts of time in between before you go back out there. In our sport, you can either recover or that fight is getting stopped. Nurmagomedov recovered, but he never got back up to his feet. He's recovering on his knees, and he's dazed. His opponent comes in to swarm him. He's on a single, switches to a double. With his whole exchange ends, which, by the way, that whole exchange that took me 30 seconds to tell you guys about, that whole exchange was less than 3 seconds in real time, and Umar's on top. And I don't know that I have full confidence in telling you, had they not gone through that scramble, that Umar had another way to get on top. I don't know that I have full confidence in telling you if Umar wanted a takedown that he could just go out and get it. I mean, this opponent, this guy was good, real good. All right. So Umar gets done with the fight and he stays on brand, right? Everything's on brand. Turns out he's tough. Turns out he can weaponize pace and conditioning, just like cousin Khabib. He's in there interviewing. What does he want to do next? Now, I'm going to bury my lead. Do you guys know who he called out? I'm going to bury my lead, but let me tell you why. When I tell you the rankings don't matter, like that is so obviously a broad stroke. And I get in our comment section, we get in these back and forths and the rankings do matter, and Chael thinks you should get it all done with your mouth. It's a broad stroke. There's a time and a place for them. There's a reason in 2012 we created the rankings when prior to 2012 we did the sport since 1993 and never had them. Like, it's not as though they don't belong to a degree. The problem is nobody knows what anybody's ranked except for the guy that's got the ranking. That's where you get confused. If you could fight a guy that's ranked number one, I want to fight the number one guy. When you want to fight the number one guy, that is a byproduct of his popularity. You want to fight a guy that's known, that's got a name, that you can get some rub off of, that you can do interviews in media, that you can be opposite a poster. People will stop what they're doing. They'll see that poster in Times Square. They'll know who at least one of the two of you are. You want to fight that guy that I just described way before you want to fight a guy that's number one. You got to have that name recognition. You must have, to get to the top, the mandate of the masses. You must. Nurmagomedov understands that to a degree. Nobody at 135 pounds has a better ranking than this gentleman. I apologize, got my R's confused. A better record. It's perfect. He's completely undefeated. Now we got to start getting those names, right? Calls out Cory Sandhagen. And I thought it was so perfect. I thought it was so perfect because now all of a sudden he's aligning himself with a name that we know. By the way, Umar is ranked number 13. Cory Sandhagen is ranked number 3. I mean, it really is something impressive. And one of the guys, this is off the top of my head, but is in front of Sandhagen happens to be Aljo, who, by the way, left the division. Aljo's a 145-pounder now. He's looking to kick things off, possibly become a number one contender. That's the great possible number one contenders match that the world isn't speaking about. But this is how good Cory's doing, which is my one and only point. Now, I would feel bad for Cory if he had to do that fight. Cory Sandhagen has earned and deserved a title shot for as far back as my memory can recall. And when he laid out Frankie Edgar, boom, you just stamped your ticket into a title shot. The night that we named him, in a derogatory reasons, we named him a Sandhagen for not following his own career, they were trying to give him a title shot then. So, I mean, in all fairness, you go and watch Sandhagen versus Rob Font. Sandhagen's shown one weakness in his entire career, which was his wrestling. It happened to be his defensive wrestling. But just to show that he shored that up, he went out and beat Rob Font with offensive wrestling. Sandhagen's great. Can we give him that? He's great. Fighting those guys from Dagestan is a pain in the ass. Can we also agree on that? They are the one team that has risen to the top and stayed at the top that has ignored the more fundalized philosophical beliefs that you must be great everywhere. They are one mission heavy, which is grappling and topside grappling at that, followed by ground and pound, but in that order. So it's just a very tricky thing to even know how to prepare for. Like, as you're spreading your time around, knowing that's his strength, you don't want to put all of your time in a training camp into something that's defensive because that's represented a weakness anyway. It just creates for a very hard matchup. Okay, great. Well, what do? You avoid it. You tactically avoid it. Before you get called out, you call somebody else out that's more interesting. Or in Sandhagen's spot, you match him up yourself. Well, if Sandhagen has to respond to this, if he says yes, okay, fine, we're done. It's yes. But let's say he doesn't want to say that and he doesn't want to look cowardly, then he needs to take Umar and get him and Merab. Tell us some behind-the-scenes story. Tell us how these two have been ducking each other. Tell us how, hey, that's the real fight, and I'm not going to get in the way of that. Everybody wants to see that, but I'll be waiting for that. I mean, there's ways to manipulate this and massage this. Because Sandhagen, in all fairness, qualifies for a title shot. You're a jerk if you say he doesn't. And you guys aren't jerks. But somebody named Nurmagomedov, who's 16-0, also deserves a title shot. Like, right, I can stop you right there without giving you any more information or telling you who those opponents are against. But guy is 16-0. It's kind of hard to deny him. So I predict for you, we probably will go down that road. I predict for you a very good likelihood of seeing Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov. And it's not just because of the call-out or where those guys happen to lie. It has to do with the fact that our number one contender has been established prior to the title fight being held. Not generally how things get done. We're in a bit of a rare time. It has happened before. It's not a one-off, but it's a bit of a rare time that Merab, in this case, is announced to be in the finals, sitting there to take on the winner of a championship match that still has yet to be called. So there's an interesting game going on. Merab's going to be flown to Miami. Merab's going to be sitting in the front row. The front row is reserved for the story that we all know, which is he'll be thrown on TV. It's what's called a cameo. Crowd will give a quick reaction. Be a wonderful time in his life because he'll have all the joys of fighting with none of the stresses of actually getting punched. He'll have DC and Rogan, John Anik, the announce team saying, here's your number one contender. Then he just needs the fight to come to conclusion. And whichever guy comes out on top to take that microphone and to call for him, at which time he'll push through security and they'll get their first face-off. That's the plan, right? Well, what if the guy that wins and takes the microphone has a different plan? And what if we like the new plan that we've yet to hear better? The only thing you need to know about this sport and number one contenderships and title shots and who's going to win is nothing in this sport is done until it's done.